let's talk about Bleacher Report, being Bleacher Report, and just, being Bleacher Report. At this point, that's all it is. It's just the national media trying to act like they know what's going on for each individual team. And there's some guys out there that really do know what's happening. There's a lot of guys that have no idea what's going on. Bleacher Report was the latest one to call out the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wish I had a name, but I don't, and I don't feel like scrolling up to the top here. So we'll do this. We'll do a little Christopher Knox out of Bleacher Report. Not 100% who that is, but we'll talk about him. Gave the Pittsburgh Steelers a C+ for their offseason additions. Don't feel really great about it. That includes the free agency. That includes the NFL draft. We'll just list off a couple of things here before we really dive into it. Key additions: quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, offensive line guys Mason Cole, James Daniels, and obviously inside linebacker Miles Jack. Key draft additions: Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, DeMarvin Leal, Calvin Austin. I could have named those guys without even looking. Key departures: this is when it gets a little interesting. Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, obviously. Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously. Yeah. James Washington. What?
Key.
Trey Turner. What? All right. And this is where it gets great here. So first off, and before I even dive into that, do you have any initial thoughts here? You got any quick hits? Don't get too deep because it gets good. It gets better. Doesn't get any worse, or it doesn't get any easier.
I do want to say for the record, I have not seen this, so you're really hyping it up to be something phenomenal. Really quickly, I don't know, man. I feel like if we're calling James Washington and Trey Turner key departures, we're already grasping for straws. So my curiosity is piqued.
Okay, you're right on the line here. Here we go. All right, so I want to pick out a bunch of. I don't want to read. It's long. It's very long. It's a lot of nonsense for it to be very long. All right. The additions of Mason Cole and James Daniels should improve the line some, and Miles Jack should help bolster the run defense. However, the Steelers also parted with guard Trey Turner and lost two key, emphasis on the word key, offensive pieces in Juju Smith-Schuster and James Washington. We're not done yet. Second round pick George Pickens and fourth rounder Calvin Austin III may eventually replace them. But no rookie pass catchers are always a crapshoot. Donnie Droon.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question. How difficult do you believe it will be for the Pittsburgh Steelers to replace, without mentioning names, 24 receptions, 285 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 2022?
Yeah, George Pickens is going to have that by week 5. So,
what are we doing here? What is the argument? It's grasping. One thing to say grasping for air and or for anything they could find, and it's one thing to say James Washington is a key departure because already you're wrong. You clearly have not watched what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. You clearly have never watched a Pittsburgh Steelers game because you would notice that James Washington's never on the field. Like ever, never. And all we've done is question that for the last 4 years. Where is James Washington? Why isn't James Washington playing this much? Mike Tomlin, are you going to get James Washington involved? No. Okay, sounds good. Key, wow. But to say that George Pickens and that Calvin Austin are going to eventually, maybe eventually replace James Washington and Juju Smith-Schuster is hilarious. Juju, I get that. There was a time Juju was a very strong contributor to this team. All respect to Juju. All respect to James Washington. George Pickens will probably have a very solid year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Replacing James Washington will be the easiest thing anybody does ever, as long as they're on the field. And to say rookie pass catchers don't always hit their mark. Did you watch Ja'Marr Chase last season?
Have you watched any rookie receiver, any top rookie receiver come out? Like, George Pickens was talked about as a first-round pick, and like, had he not had a lot of the injury stuff was definitely a concern. But I feel like a lot of the conversation around him was more so centered around like his like attitude, right? I guess he's been compared to like a pit bull, just in terms of like, you know, not being able to like keep his composure on the field. But like talent-wise, he's a first-round pick.
First rounder.
And when you look at some of the top receivers in the league, obviously you have your Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, all of those guys. But like the crop of receivers that have come in and immediately make an impact, how could you? It's almost like expected that like Pickens comes in and makes an impact. Not like Ja'Marr Chase, not like Justin Jefferson, like maybe not quite that level, but still, like playing in the receiving core with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, you are going to get looks. Like you are going to be, you know, found in one-on-one coverage. And if George Pickens is anything like the dude we saw at Georgia, he's going to win those matchups.
Yeah, it took Chase Claypool's rookie season. It took him one game. It didn't take him just his first game, but there was one game, Chase Claypool's rookie season, where he beat all of the marks James Washington had last season in one game. In one game. And you're telling me George Pickens can't have that game? You're telling me Calvin Austin can't have that game? I think it's just to be that low on those guys. You, for one, put way too much emphasis on James Washington. Way too much emphasis on James Washington. You haven't watched what Juju Smith-Schuster has done in this offense in the last 2 years. And that's not a lapse of James Washington. Or of Juju Smith-Schuster. That's just saying the numbers weren't that crazy. Like, they really weren't that nuts in the last 2-3 seasons.
Yeah.
George Pickens has all the potential in the world. All the potential in the world. Calvin Austin, Sauce Gardner's calling him the hardest matchup he had in college. You're telling me that guy's not going to have 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2022? I find that very hard to believe. I just think that it's just another example of the national media saying we're just going to talk smack on the Pittsburgh Steelers and we're going to just pull things out.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was, hey, man, the deadline for this article is tomorrow. I got nothing on this team.
Nothing.
I'll go through.
We haven't even talked.
I'll take who they lost. I'll take the biggest names I could find. I'll take the biggest names that they gained in the offseason, and then I'll put some together really quick because in a month people won't remember this.
Yep, exactly. In a month, nobody will be talking about this because there'll be 17 other stories saying the big things. And that's not even mentioning like Trey Turner. Did you watch Trey Turner's tape last season? We've talked multiple times about how Chooks and Dan Moore were the reliable offensive linemen. Trey Turner was a Pro Bowler coming in here and he stunk. So you're telling me that was a guy that's a key loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers? There's not one Pittsburgh Steelers fan that was like, oh man, I hope we keep Trey Turner. Trey Turner didn't even want to come back. There's no way. That's not a key loss. By no means is a key loss.
Yep. Turner's T equals sign Trey Turner.
Equals Trey Turner. All right. It doesn't get worse, but you could just tell that things are still getting a little ridiculous here. Ridiculous in a whole other manner. Like Bleacher Report should really just look at this guy's profile and just check him out because I haven't dug deep, but I might after this one. All right. This is another paragraph in here. The good news is that Pittsburgh gave itself options at quarterback by signing Mitchell Trubisky and taking a seventh round flyer on South Dakota State's Chris Oladokun. Mason Rudolph is in the mix as well. The Steelers won't have to rush Pickett onto the field before he's ready. Okay, so I get what they're saying there, but what does Chris Oladokun have to do with Kenny Pickett not starting as a rookie? And also, why is Mason Rudolph also in the mix? Why wouldn't it just be Chris Oladokun's also in the mix? It doesn't like it. I'm lost at words. I'm a lost at words.
Did he just list the 7th round pick and then Mason Rudolph before Kenny Pickett. So Kenny Pickett doesn't have to rush himself onto the field.
Yeah. Mitchell Trubisky, Chris Oladokun, and also in the mix, Mason Rudolph, which sounds like an outlier to me, is the reason Kenny Pickett doesn't have to rush onto the football field as a rookie. So they're not going to put Kenny Pickett out there, but chances are there's a possibility Chris Oladokun is the reason that this doesn't need to happen for Kenny Pickett. This dude, Chris, he's wearing it. He's wearing a vest and a tie in his shirt in his profile picture.
It sounds like Chris needs to like and subscribe to All Steelers Talk on YouTube. Is what that sounds like.
One listen. Just listen to one time. And $10 says your article will be 10 times better. I haven't even gone through the rest of the teams, but there's a part of me that doesn't want to because holy smokes, man. Bad. Bad.
Well, even if he only dropped in and called us a moron in the comments like everybody else did, totally cool with that. But my man, gotta get educated.
Yeah, I don't even care. Like you could, what? Like he says that their best, his projection for them, his upside projection or whatever, it's called the EC projection. I don't know what that means. Is they're throwing multiple darts at quarterback. They're throwing 3. This dude thinks it's 4, but they're throwing 3, pretty much just 2. Nah, Chris, man. One episode will change your ways. Change your whole life. We'll give you might switch over to being a Steelers fan. You might have a whole new outlook on what the Pittsburgh Steelers do.
This dude definitely does not eat his crust.
No way Chris eats his crust. There's no way. This dude doesn't eat his crust. He throws his cold pizza away. No doubt he throws his cold. He doesn't even put it in the fridge, dude. He doesn't even forget about it for 2 days. He throws it away. And then he looks at you all strange when you're like ready to slap him. And you're like, he's like, what?
He's like, we're leftover pizza for breakfast?
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. What are you talking about, man? That's the best thing ever. And he's just like, oh, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. Chris, get out of here. We're done with you.